We're going to have tape on them. All right, good. Good morning. This is Chuck Fuller. Welcome to the June 29th session of the Effingham BoS Selectmen's meeting. I'm present as Chuck Fuller. We have Lenny Esky to my right, selectman, and Tom Hart to my left, selectman. One of the first things we want to do is basically get into public instruction. So if people want to make statements or ask questions, when we get to the public speaking section, you'll have up to 5 minutes to make a statement and or ask questions. And before we get started, we'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, folks. All right, let's go dive into things. Signature folders. Selectmen's minutes of meeting June 22, 2021. I'll make a motion to approve the selectmen's minutes from June 22nd, 2021. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, Fuller, aye?
Aye. Aye.
And the elderly exemption item we had on here was missing something, so that's been taken back up to the assessing clerk's office. Approval of the manifest. First item is we have a revision from last week's manifest. The treasurer found where we were 2 cents off. So we need to reapprove the manifest from June 24th in the amount of $33,387.90. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, Fuller, aye?
Aye.
And the June 29 manifest in the amount of $102,767.45. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Fuller, aye?
Aye.
All right, reviewing the mail. We have 21 properties scheduled to be deeded on August 13th. If 2018 taxes are not paid in the amount of total $48,106.66. Also in the mail was a Department of Environmental Services emergency authorization verification to repair the failed culvert system and stabilize the roadway under Bailey Road. That's a 60-day permit, so that work will be beginning shortly, and I'm told the road will not be shut down for the people who live on the other side of that during that repair. We also have received a Superior Court judgment against one of our junkyard and sewage inspection properties, and that will be followed up on fairly soon. We also had a resignation of the Deputy Health Officer. Tom Hart is stepping down, and we will be hopefully discussing that replacement next week. Under announcements, the transfer station will be closed July 4th, which is a Sunday. The town offices will be closed July 5th, which is a Monday. The Board of Selectmen's meeting will be moved to Wednesday, July 7th. And the town clerk tax collector office is closed for the entire week next week, reopening on Monday, July 12th. And that brings us up to administrative comments.
I like one and move right along.
When it's spelled out, it makes it easy.
So Caroline is out today. We've been working on getting the revenue into QuickBooks. We have the accountant coming back this Wednesday, tomorrow for a couple hours because we're challenged with the credit cards that the town clerk processes and getting them reconciled into QuickBooks and the bank statements correctly. So he's going to come assist us for 2 hours.
We're going to talk about the budget actual for the end of June at the next selectmen's meeting work session, which is the first Tuesday, or in this case Wednesday of the month. We're going to review the budget actual in detail. Is there a way that Deanna can produce a revenue report for us? Just very high categories saying, here's where we are, here's what we thought we were going to be, and here's where we actually are.
I don't know if she forecasts where she thinks she's going to be.
Okay.
But
okay.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Okay, the Department of Revenue Administration sent a form letter regarding the TA 28, the inventory that gets sent to all of the residents in town. And there's an RSA that towns aren't going to use it. There's only a handful in towns that continue using it. And David and I have been gathering information on why we thought Effingham should discontinue that practice. Not only does it cost us a lot of money, my estimate is that it costs us approximately $3,000 between printing, postage, and the labor. The labor of this year we used Barbara because we have to stamp them. Many of them get returned undeliverable. We have to research addresses. Then we have to go in and put in anything. And there's a very minimal number of properties that actually have changes. And most of those have been caught on the building permits. David did print out something, so I'll give it to you.
So if I remember his earlier discussion, Audrey, out of 233 towns, cities, or that were doing this, is less than 20 of them left that are still doing it in the state.
Correct. And so on the second sheet there, he gave you the RSA that allows the Board of Selectmen to not utilize this inventory any longer. And he's working with, in the bottom is his assessing response. Due to the current processes in place of cyclical data collection permitted by the US Census, the annual inventory polls and taxable property is no longer needed. So it was part of the census prior to a few years ago. So we don't need it for the US Census. And having David work with Rebecca on building permits and requiring building permits for more items, like he went into a home and they're redoing top to bottom. They're redoing 3 floors, putting in new bathrooms. So all of that should require a building permit. Other towns do that. So he and Rebecca are reviewing what a building permit is. She had only required bedrooms before to make sure the storage was applicable to that number of bedrooms. But redoing your kitchen changes your assessment. And by having a building permit required for that, then the assessment of the home occurs earlier than the 10-year happenstance visit. So 10 years to go by after the kitchen remodel, in which case the value isn't caught for the town to get revenue.
So when David was talking about this several weeks back, he also mentioned that he and Rebecca are designing a new tracking system, a year date tracking system, so that we can track the permits that come in within a given year and then follow up on them relative to completion or still in process the following year.
Correct.
So by tightening up the permit review process and follow-up work process, as well as the fact that Avatar is doing their annual required random percentage of checking tax cards, that should give us the information we need rather than spending this roughly $3,000 a year. It's getting us minimal, if any, value on the other end.
Correct.
What are your thoughts?
I like the idea, but I'm just wondering how much more work does this will entail for Rebecca? And how many more hours Rebecca and I add on to her with the actual, on the building permits will be revised and all?
She is, excuse me, she is not a building inspector.
Right.
So she won't be going in, we won't be, the town won't be inspecting for plumbing, electrical, things like that. So it would be the same as far as the storage. What it allows is in our software that we pay for with Avatar, for us to put building permit, kitchen improvement, September 2021, Avatar gets flagged, it gets assessed.
So we're not putting a bunch more work on it back.
No.
Okay.
So, if you all approve, that form is prepared for your signature.
Any questions?
No, I always thought it was a pain in the butt anyway.
Okay. Then,
We're still getting them, so what we do is they go through and they have to say everyone who didn't submit them, and then they get a penalty on their property tax, and then they pay their property tax with the form that was due 3 months ago.
Yep.
It's a pain in the neck.
all right, then let me make a motion to eliminate the inventory document for the 2022 season and going forward.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you need me to sign something there?
Yeah, you all need to sign it. Thank you.
So Dave, that'll take care of some of the postage over to that particular department that showed up. 2/3. Yeah, we're not gonna have an issue anymore with that part.
I signed in blue, is that all right?
Yeah, see, Bateman's got to sign it black.
Okay.
I thought I was gonna bring in black pens to go.
Oh, yes.
The other item I have is also related to assessing. There's several items that come in each year that would be considered abatements. And right now, the Board of Selectmen are the assessors for the town. And in the example case that David explained to me, if this trailer was moved from this campsite to this campsite, the trailer, there's no value in the taxes changing, there's no money changing, but by him being an assessing technician, he can correct the map and lot number in Avatar. So we would like permission for him to do non-monetary housekeeping in the assessing system without having to do a 10-page form for you all to sign.
I'm good with that.
So if, you all approve him doing the housekeeping, he will keep it maintained. Thank you.
Streamlining and making more efficiency, I'm in favor.
Yeah.
You want to do a motion
What would you like me to title it?
to give the assessing technician non-monetary approval for modifications?
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
All those in favor, Fuller, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I'm moving forward with my same list on Sam and the Gophers registrations.
So do we have a Sam's number thing straightened out? I
Oh, we
know-
do,
Okay,
yes.
and we got our DUNS number too that they
Yes.
refer to in it? Okay, good.
And the company I was working with to remove the barrel of feces that was left near the side of the road stopped responding to me. So I now have Clean Harbors on it. And hopefully when I get out of this meeting, I'll have a call back. She was,
And they've done work for the town in the past. So.
yeah, she's reactivating our account and hopefully we'll do the work. Did I say something incorrectly? What do you mean it's not on?
It's not on, let's get in. Just figure out how vital it is that she's talking.
Oh, I just didn't let you in. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time keeping minutes and talking and doing this. You're in. Both you're in now.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
That's all I have. I don't know how to run Zoom.
Have you had any chance to look at or be on any of those NHPA call or NHMA calls regarding the ARPA and
Yes,
Excel
I-
calculator and that whole bit?
Yes, I did one the day prior to you watching it, so last Monday, the day before you watched yours. And I set us up, so I have the account, I can get in, and so all that's in process.
I went and listened to 3, 4, 5 hours of that stuff this week and looked at a lot of the printouts. And I created a document, which I think are some of the things based on the 5 categories that we can potentially apply under. And I'm gonna hand that to each one of these folks today. We'll talk about it at next week's work session. But that revenue calculator was the one that I think we have possibilities for that, but I know it takes a little bit of effort to gather the information and plug in.
It was actually pretty clear because they tell me exactly what line on which form that we file, to take it off of.
Okay.
My one question, which they responded to after the webinar, was related to doing air purifiers, and they thought that would be fine.
Which is a good idea. So once we think we have our list identified, we can probably run that list by them just as a high level in the ballpark. Before we have to go start gathering all of our supporting documentation for them. Okay.
I can have the numbers ready for next week's work session. when we
If you
talk
could.
about Budget, we could do that as
If you
well.
could, because I mean, I know we've only got a few weeks left before we have to submit that thing, so I'll get to July, but I'd rather be early than late
Okay.
on that. And what we're referring to is the federal government program called ARPA 2021, where they're giving monies to states down to towns and cities. And Effingham's portion of that has been identified on the documents over a 2-year period. So half of it this year, half of it next year. We'll split $154,731 is our maximum potential. If we cannot come up with enough projects that fit the definition of coverage around the whole COVID definitions, we will not get all of that money. So the goal right now is to try and identify as many target areas to use that money, validate that they would probably be acceptable underneath the grant, that we can get documentation to support that, and then we decide to submit. So, any other questions, everyone? Okay. Selectmen's comments, Mr. Hart.
You all set on it?
I am, thank you.
Yeah, just, last week gathered up some street signs and a few more Pine River Road color work beginning next week, July 5th, not sure, if it's gonna be 5th or the 6th.
6th.
but the 6th. I'll check the slate before on the road. So we're gonna set up some signs, so there'll be signage. Did we get it in the newspaper already? I couldn't remember.
Yes.
Okay. Also, talked to a citizen who wanted to know about a Husses Ahead sign. I called them, we're back, left a message with her, told her that the town as it's been doing, we can order her the sign, post and hardware, but she is responsible for the cost of the sign and the installation.
I'm sorry, excuse me. That
Yes.
was a horse with an R.
Horse.
Okay.
Oh, okay, thank you.
She was
Sorry, I'm like, what?
A 4-legged animal this big, yeah.
Gotcha. That was this, I didn't hear the R.
Horse. We can, like I said, we can order the post and have it, she'll be responsible for the cost of the sign and the installation. So we will assist her with the proper location of the sign, so it won't be in the way of any plowing or grading or what have you. And that was it.
All right.
Excuse me, Tom.
Yes, ma'am.
The Boston Post Kane article ran Saturday.
Yes, I saw that in the Conway Sun. Thank you much.
It was very good.
Yeah, excellent.
Good picture, good shot. All right, Lenny.
While we're on the roads,
Mhm.
some of them getting some potholes in them. Champion Hill is a big one right at Elm Street and Pine River.
Yeah,
There's a couple on Elm Street. I don't know if we're gonna be doing any patching anytime soon, but
Well, we could after this, hopefully the rain we're supposed to get the next few days, we could basically see if we can get it done. Do you have an email where you kind of list the roads of which roads need to be touched?
No, I haven't written all over
Okay.
them, so.
All right.
Would you say?
Oh, yeah, Elm Street is right, the intersection, Elm and Pine River is a good sized one.
Okay.
Champion Hill is one in the middle of the hill, and there's a couple more on Elm Street. But I haven't been over every road, so.
Okay, thanks. I know if I am.
We know Pine River usually has holes no matter what, Elm Street no matter what.
We talked about getting the rock out of the river at Station 2.
Well, I think, yeah, I think we've got an advantage if Evans has actually got his crews here in town the week of the 6th for 4, 5, 6 days. We ought to see if we can get him to come down and pull that while he's in town.
Yeah. I mean, now's the time to do it because the water's right down. It wouldn't even be in the water. So.
Do you want to explain what that, removing that rock does?
That rock, the road, the riverbank between South River and 153 in front of the fire station is eroding and everything's falling into the river. And what has happened is a rock has come down and fallen onto the end of the pipe for the dry hydrant. And we don't know if it's crushed or what, but the fire department wants to fix it. So we got to get the rock out of there to see what they got to do, whether it's 6-inch pipe, 8-inch pipe, whatever. But it's a good size rock, so we've got to get it out. Probably extend the pipe out further into the river because it keeps washing in and fills in with silt. So get it out into a deep hole and replace the hull.
What's important there is to be able to put the fire hydrant, the dry hydrant back in. So right now, they don't have a capability when they bring the engine back to just plug into that and fill it up. They've got to go across the street, throw it into the river and fill it from there. Speaking of ISO and dry hydrants, did you do any follow-up to find out that person?
3 calls.
Okay.
She said she called me back.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Yeah, Tom did some homework last year. What we found out is all the dry hydrants in town are not listed on the ISO reports. So we're not getting any advantage from a fire rating standpoint in the town. So they had last year offered to come out and do a road trip with us around town to identify not only the ones we have, identify the ones that are working, size pipes, whatever, but also give us some suggestions on, because of fire rating, we might want to try and add new dry hydrants when we have the money to do that. So hopefully at some point we'll get the government out here to help.
And yeah, it was because of COVID, why they didn't want to come out and survey with us, so.
Makes sense.
I swung in and looked at the salt shed. That's probably a third full of salt and sand. So it's a little much in there to move out so we could seal it. So maybe we'll have to try and remember that next year. So run down real low so that because last time we did it, they moved it from, put it all on one side, they sealed half of it and then moved it back and sealed the other.
So we're talking about sealing the concrete walls to
yeah.
hopefully not have the salt
Correct.
work in
Yeah.
there.
But there's kind of too much in there right now, so. And when we get Evans in town with a rock and we have induced a little bit more to Cemetery Road.
Yeah, what part, I actually drove up there, what part of it was, I saw where he ended like halfway down the road, right?
Yeah,
And then going up, it seems kind of pretty smooth to me, I didn't know.
well, you get onto that bend in the hill when you first go up.
Oh, okay, right at the beginning of the road then.
Well, it's kind of flat. I mean, when you first go in there, there's a mud hole. You can still see the ruts from somebody going in the spring, but just beyond that, as you start up the hill on the corner, I mean, it's big loose gravel there and it's washboardy. But you know, Linda Edwards mentioned canopy growing in. That it is growing in quite a bit. And we ought to make it look like it's a road that's used. I mean, right now there's grass growing up in it and everything else, but.
Yeah, we get the gravel on it. The road guy that you had talked to that did the tree out here, would he be willing to go in there and do that, or is he not the right person for that?
Oh, I'm sure he'd do it. I don't know if we need a bucket to go that high. I mean, probably a lot of it you could get with a pole saw, but he could at least get a chipper. He could chip it so you wouldn't have to haul it off.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be worth it. We can get an idea of what that might entail. and
I
what
can
price
call
tag.
him and get a price. See
Yeah,
what he
because
says.
I had actually stopped and checked with a couple of the guys, the tree company that's around town here, trimmed all the wires for Eversource and tried to figure out how we might be able to get a quote from them. The guy laughed at me and said,
Yeah,
we're so busy with Eversource,
Yeah.
making so much money that we're not doing town stuff. I was like, okay.
did you get all his paperwork? I see he came in last week.
I'd have to ask Darlene, I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I will double check. Do you know his name?
Dale Smith. I didn't know if he brought a bill in, but I didn't see it in the manifest. So.
And he mustn't have.
Maybe
I'll
come in,
double
maybe he come in and saw Deanna. I don't know. I just saw him walk in. So, okay. But yeah, I can call him. The I don't know, that new update on the price for that oil tank.
Mhm,
Did you see how much it went up
mhm,
in a year?
mhm. Welcome to price inflation.
Yeah, well,
We should have ordered it last year.
yeah, I guess. Is that the one we still want to order? If we do, we probably ought to order it and then we can get the grant in.
When I did the homework on that particular tank, it met all the federal and the state DES guidelines
Yeah.
for that thickness, the whole bit. A decision point we would have to make, because we originally, last year, I've been talking about having 2 compartments in it. Do we still want to do 2 compartments or just have 1 compartment and take a chance that it'll never get contaminated? Or do we want to have 2? My thought was 2, and even if 1 did get contaminated, we
Yeah.
wouldn't be out of business. It's on rollers, so we could move it around a little bit in there. In each of the pour-in areas, the opening is designed for a 2.5-inch hose to get it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And then a spill area right around the top of the tank.
But I mean, it went up
About
$975. That's a lot one year.
Price of 2x4 in the last year,
Yeah, I didn't realize.
but that, we can talk about that next week in
Right.
detail.
Yeah,
And make a decision on it. If we do, then from the grant standpoint, then you literally it's one item on the grant. We don't have to
Correct.
describe doing a whole bunch of
correct.
additional construction. And boards and whatever.
Yeah.
So,
And I did get a call into Kevin Cody. He texted me last night, said he was gonna call me today. I haven't heard from him yet on the status of the building. He did go over and patch the holes that where the old bumper post is. But also right where the bottom plate is fastened to the concrete, it's running right in underneath that. So I wanted to talk to him about what we can do to remedy that, silicone it, flash it, inside it, maybe put a rain gutter on or something. But I wanted to see when he planned on, I think Mark said he told him the door should be in soon. So what that means, but I wanted to get an update as
yeah,
to
it's
when
one
he
of
could,
those metal roll up.
when he could, give me an approximate date of when the building will be finished. So,
Well, I know he's gonna start working on the library building the week of the 5th.
oh, yeah. Well,
So
maybe-
sometime over that 2 to 3 weeks, I know he's gonna be working in town.
Yeah, so, so far, like I said, I haven't heard from him, but we'll keep after him. And that's all I got for right now.
Okay. In again, reviewing some of the NHMA training last week around financial responsibility, and I'm going to follow up on this. Under RSA, each town and city is supposed to have an investment policy statement. We have no such document in our system. I do have a template from one of the towns north of here. It's a 2-pager. It's very simple. I want to do some more homework to find out what the responsibility is around that, and we're gonna have to tweak it to our current money management policies. But we should be able to pull something together. So I want to set that as part of the work session for the 21st, the third Tuesday. The health officer has been through some additional required training by the state. And as a result of that, he's gonna actually bring in some information. In fact, he might show up later this morning. Apparently we've got to do some things that we don't have currently in place from an RSA standpoint. He's gonna outline what those are, and we'll take that.
Maybe Audrey, you could teleport him in.
I could teleport to him. maybe.
Yeah.
No, teleport him in so he could be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I told him roughly 10 o'clock. Oh, he's there. No, you see, you're sitting behind Vicky. I didn't see you. That's not fair, Mr. Cahalan. All right.
Oh, nice.
So let me finish my list and then we can entertain there. So good. Then everything related to health, I'll check off. Last week, we talked about the asbestos contracts at the library. Holding off signing versus signing now because of the work being done in mid-late September. I had Chris Garcia, the project manager, follow up with the companies. And the company said, basically, sign it now, we'll hold the price, even though you're not gonna do the work until September. So I would like to sign those contracts today if you gentlemen are agreeable.
I'm agreeable.
Okay, then I'll make a motion to sign a contract with Enviro Vantage. ENVIRO Vantage. I believe they're out of Epping, and that would be in the amount of $4,385. And that is to remove the asbestos in the town hall library that was discovered as part of a recent review. And the second, make a motion. Wait a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fluoride?
Aye.
Thank you. Second item to that is there is required air monitoring for the entire period of time that the remediation effort is going to be in play, which they expect is going to take about 3 full days. That particular contract was with RPF Environmental. They've already done work for the town because they did the original survey to test things. Their document states that their price tag is basically $820 a day plus $350 for the entire plan. So we're in the neighborhood of about $3,000 on that one, but it'll really depend upon how many days it physically has to be there for the final price. So I'll make a recommendation that we hire RPF Environmental to do the air quality monitoring during asbestos removal. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Fluoride?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We'll sign that. We'll get that out. Pine River Road, Tom touched on it. The week of July 6th, the 3 overflow culverts that are required by our DES permit will be installed. A notice of that road event has been posted in the Conway Sun and is up on the town website. The contractor is going to attempt to have a 1 lane open at most of the time during that construction. So the signs are going to be put up are going to say 1 lane bridge on either end, out toward Elm Street and out toward 16. And there will be a period or 2, we don't know, they won't know until they get into it, where they may have to close the entire road for up to 2 to 3 hours. And that's to be able to link culverts and do some of the other work. We just cannot say, hey, it's going to happen at this date, this time. So we just want to make sure everybody's aware there's going to be work that week on that road. That's July 6th is a Tuesday. We're purposely staying away from Monday because of the holiday, because I kind of expect to be some tourists trying to drive that road. So we'll take care of that. And we will need to notify Audrey the appropriate entities that can be affected by that, the school district, Carroll County Dispatch. Dispatch has a call tree, so once you hit them, they hit the fire, EMS, police, everybody on that. We talked last week about signing the JP Pest Control contract for tick spraying at the transfer station. Lenny asked a good question, and I did some follow-up. And lo and behold, we can't do tick spraying at the transfer station because where we need to spray near the white goods is within 100 feet of a wetland, and under the state law, the licensed applicator cannot install it. So we'll be relegated back to the process that we had been looking at, which is applying tick tubes summer and fall around that enclosure, and hopefully over the next year or so, the number of ticks will go down quite a bit. Legal line expenditures we raised last week. As I said, Darlene or Audrey put together an Excel sheet. We'll cover that as part of the budget to actual review next week in our work session. When Lawrence Edwards in here last week, he came up with a request for us to have a release form that would be signed by Mike Cahalan for the granite, selling the granite as the town's property. There is no such form that anybody can find in this office. I don't know where we can get one. Nobody's used one that I know of in a long time, so.
We had, we had a release form. Because Chris Garcia is found,
And I don't, how
when
far back?
the previous owner, God, what's
Fish
what-
farm.
Fish Barn, thanks, Mike. When they owned it, he signed a release so they could put that runoff across from his house on the pasture side.
Do we know what we need to do is try and find a project where that was in play? Do you
And
know-
then
do you
on
know that?
Pulpit Hill Road, Wayne, that lives in that little white house just past Altos,
Yeah.
up the hill. He gave us permission. I took it up, he signed it, to put a runoff just below his house, between his house and Altos. Because he used to come down and fill Altos's pool full of sand.
Yep.
So, there was a form.
Do you know what time periods those roughly are? Because we've got to manually go back and try and search the files to find one.
Yeah, well, it was probably 3 years ago,
Okay.
that
And that, and that would have been during like a summer, early fall
Yeah.
kind of timeframe. Can you ask Darlene to try and go back and see if you can find either one of those?
and Fish Barn was probably before that.
When you're accessing property to do water runoff or doing a project, to send in culvert or something like that, it's kind of like a right of way for that kind of thing. This is not the same thing. This is just somebody donating property.
That's what Lawrence has basically alluded to. But
know-
I mean, as a release form, you can add number of different types of releases on the one form. I'm just trying to find whatever form we used in the past, and nobody seems to know what one is.
I'm unaware that there's any such necessity,
Okay.
is what I was gonna say. Simply, how I ended up with this grant was not by design, so I'm not gonna get into that. But as it stands out, since there's some fur flying over it, I guess there's a legal point. The contractor owned it. I wanted it separated to the transfer station. He didn't have time for it. It showed up unannounced on my property. I had no idea. I separated it. Legally, I guess this now makes me the owner.
And I believe that's where Lawrence was going with his question last week.
But I don't want the granite. I separated, put it out by the wall, by the road for you guys. You know that. I contacted you that.
Yep.
So this is simply a donation to the town. And I don't think it exceeds $10,000, and we certainly don't need to have it appraised. So I don't think you need anything outside of me coming in and put it in the minutes that this is being given to the town. You have a record of it and move on. That's all I believe you need. And you might want to check just with NHMA because it's free to verify that. And it might simplify your world and the office staff.
I will do the NHMA check, and basically whether it's you being here or just a quick email that says here's what it is, I think that may provide the documentation.
Because you hold a public hearing if you're in receipt of something of $10,000
Yep.
or more, and that, you don't need a release form, you just hold a public hearing for it. So I think you got two competing things here. One is an access on
A right way,
property.
yeah, right away kind of thing.
Yeah, that's all.
That's the only form I remember, was just,
Okay,
they let us run water out on the property.
all right. So I'll follow up on that this week and get an answer from NHMA, and we'll go. We'll be able to lock that one down and get it in the archives. Personnel policy, part-time vacation hours. From our discussion last week, I had to take away to do some homework. around the recently passed hiring of part-time people for the fire department to staff daily hours. And I was concerned in adjusting any kind of hours in our policy, plus the number of hours that certain people are currently working down there on a weekly basis, that we might be in a position where we had to provide vacation time to the part-time fire department people that are staffing Monday through Friday. NHMA referred me over to, happens to be our law firm that we use for the town, that has a specialty in the personnel and human resource area. And the gentleman got back to me in a written email that basically said, if the town did not specifically include salary with benefits in the article we passed at the town meeting, then no benefits are due and payable. Then basically no responsibility. That particular warrant article did not cover benefits in any wording whatsoever. So we're precluded from having to provide vacation time to the part-time fire department people. We are still going to take a look at, we're going to do a little homework. Hold on a minute, Rosemary. We're still going to take a look at the 20-hour week versus a 15-hour week, what's going on around us in different towns, because we have had a request, could we reduce it from 20 down to 15? And we need to take a look at it. I'm, in this area, not interested in becoming a trendsetter. If other entities are basically doing part-time at certain numbers of hours, I would be consistent in staying with that route. But that's just one person, that's me. We haven't talked about it yet. So I'm doing some homework on that one, and we'll see what we can do with that. Rosemary?
Okay, just a quick question. Is that the same policy we hold for all of our part-time police officers?
Yes,
That there are no benefits?
but because of,
No vacation benefits?
because they're police, they fall under a different part of the New Hampshire government system from a retirement standpoint. These folks are all full-time somewhere else and are getting full-time coverage with benefits through their primary employer. We're not responsible for giving them anything. Good question, though. The Levitt Preserve, the comment came last week around the gravel and spreading the gravel. When I left here and drove by that, I didn't see any big problems with that. Did you?
No, it looks good.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Doing it by hand.
And I traded emails with Mr. Strauss regarding Parsons Field contact for road mowing, and Dave got back to me and said he's gonna follow up.
I texted you a couple days ago.
You did? Did you follow up? What'd you come up with?
It's in your text.
Okay, I'll try and. You mean that stream of things that I try and get through daily? Okay, I will find that. So what you're telling me is you did find a contact?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then I will chase that one down. All right, for the work session next week, I will get the edits to the transfer station ordinance that we had talked about at the last work session. I'll have those out to you this week. We'll talk about the used oil container. We'll review the budget to actuals as well as the revenue. And is there anything else that you want to put on that particular meeting? Going once, going twice? Good. I'm sure I'll think of something else before then, but I'll let you know. All right, that's what I had for selectmen's comments. Old business, we just handled the proposals for asbestos and JP pest treatment for ticks, so that's taken care of. Under department heads, Mr. Hines, and our assessing is a 10 o'clock. Is he coming in at 10 to address that?
He is, I can give you something to start looking at when I go get.
Well, I'm just trying to think, we got Mike in here too, kind of unannounced, so why don't we put Mike on now, and Mike, you got a hard stop no matter what in 15 minutes.
Yeah, no worries, it won't take that long. Chuck, thank you. You know, one of the things that has come up from the new state guidelines that new legislation introduced is to health officers, and the establishment of towns like ours has to create board of health. The good news is you're all invited, the three of you, to be the board of health, because that's how it works apparently. That can be expanded to others, but the health officer would be pretty much all the officers on the board, and the keeper, you know, whatever. But but the selectmen would then be the remaining Board of Health. And with that, there's all kinds of new rules. After any new appointments, there's background checks, and any reappointment, there'll be background checks. There's clarification I'm asking for if it's needed as to who can perform those checks. A lot of this stuff is still evolving because the rules went in and they were somewhat vague. So I've got some follow-ups out to DHHS on that. But there's a number of changes that will take place, and I figure the best way is probably to meet with you folks to go over what those changes would be. They're not huge, but there's training requirements and so forth.
Would you be available on July 7th at say 10 o'clock?
I could.
Okay.
I might go on the 7th. I don't know if Mr. Evans is gonna get out there on the 7th because of his projects and maybe.
7th of the 21st.
No, I think the sooner we set this up is probably more beneficial. And that's the other part I've got in, another correspondence out there is to how to establish a Board of Health. I'm not familiar with it and haven't been digging through the RSAs, but in RSA 47, you have the powers of the city council. And with that, a lot of those powers conveyed to a Board of Selectmen when they're making ordinances and bylaws. That's great if you're doing a new health ordinance. May not apply to establishing a Board of Health. Typically, a lot of these things would go to a town meeting vote. If they don't have to go to a town meeting vote, we generally have to have a public hearing to establish something like that. So I am looking for a lot of clarification, and by the 7th, I imagine I should have something.
Good. Thank you.
So that was the big, hey, you don't have enough to do? How about this?
Welcome to another position. Okay.
Government only expands, never
Yeah.
contracts.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Michael. All right, David, you're up. Well, we're up. However you want to do.
You're up, I'm here. Yes,
Okay.
Audrey has the file.
All right, so
So let's explain what this is, so people that are listening can figure out what's
there
going
are
on.
14 properties that were submitted for abatement. 7 of them were approved, 7 of them were denied. And this folder has all of them in it. I emailed you, I know it was late last night, the list of properties and Avatar's reasoning as to why. This is where you need the black pen to sign. So this document has all of Avatar's recommendations, and David knows them more intimately. Normally, Avatar makes their recommendations, the Board of Selectmen supports them. And then if the property owner has an issue, they will file an appeal. On the list that I gave you, I did make a mark. These are starting at number 204. And only one, map 48, lot 34, is right now with the Bureau of, what is it?
Tax and land
Tax
appeals.
and Land. I couldn't think of the T.
Just to let you gentlemen know, any of these that are listed as denied on your master sheet, because I believe they should be denied by the board, and we have the discussion on the letters for each one from Avatar, our assessor. But anybody that does get denied will get a letter stating that they can apply to either the State Board of Tax and Land Appeals or Superior Court, but not both. All those that are approved can continue these forward to the BTLA or Superior Court. But in looking at what was approved and how it was approved, I don't think they'll be going further.
All right, so let's do some reading. All right, David, I'm looking at 1091 in the reading of it. And it says I recommend denied and it says approved over here.
You're looking at 1091.
Yep.
That is John Hayes, and that there should be 1091. Mine says denied.
Yeah, mine says denied.
You have the correct sheet?
Oh, I was looking up above. Never mind. Sorry.
That's okay. I did
Yep.
screw one up earlier because there's so many lines and I had the wrong one. I won't.
Okay, good. Checking it out. Thank you.
I found the rules. I know that.
Excuse me, young lady. Thank you.
When you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready.
We need to approve these in a block, or do we need to approve them one by one
You can approve them as a block on that full list.
as submitted by?
And,
Avatar? Okay.
yes,
Anybody have any reason to change anything?
I do have one question, Dave.
Sure.
The one, Sandon Westland Cottage, the one on Bailey Road.
yeah,
They compared it to their neighbor, but they have 2 lots of record. To get them maybe in line with their neighbor, there's 1 lot of record. Could they combine the 2 at some point or something and maybe lessen? I don't know, I'm just asking.
depending where the lots are, if they're separated by a road, they cannot connect them. But
Okay.
technically, the way their land is, they still have
Yeah,
the
they have the
same,
beach and then the road.
they
and-
still have the same rights. It's just the road goes by like everybody else. And there's, I believe, 6 of them on that piece that are on the water side of the road, and they're all
Because
done
they're separate.
accordingly because they're water access. It's just that the values may differ greatly because some may have a good sized lot and some may just have a tail piece of a lot. So the values do go quite a difference. And if you compare it to the guy next door and he has a piece the size of the table, and I'm next to him and I have a piece of the size of the room, we're not even going to be close in value. So we have to use what
But
is
but
the
if you're
closest.
saying the roads there and they can't be
We-
combined, how can the neighbor next door get by with just 1?
Because his probably is all on that side of the road.
Well, it says it shows that the Bailey Road's bisecting the lot, so. It's, 120 is defined as 1 track with Bailey Road bisecting the lot.
Right.
I was just wondering why 110 Bailey Road couldn't do the same thing.
Is it the difference between 1 deed and 2 deeds?
Probably a pre-existing subdivision that predate.
Right, and I can check it, but I firmly believe of what Avatar did put out, and I did check the lots, and I don't have the map in front of
Yeah.
me, but I can tell you.
Yeah, I was just wondering if
Yeah.
they
no,
could do something, that was all.
right, no.
They can't,
Unfortunately,
if they
no,
can't, they can't.
no.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the abatements submitted by Avatar Associates of New England in a letter to the Board of Selectmen dated June 18, 2021. There are 14 properties. Wait a second.
Second.
All in favor? All right.
All right,
All right.
There you go, Debbie.
You want to sign them all now, or do you want to visit David after the meeting and sign them? You need
Yeah, I think you
that.
can visit me because,
We'll put the tripwire in before we leave.
okay,
All right,
All right,
so we'll be going over my other stuff or not?
I already did. You're good.
already done.
Okay.
You saved the town some money, thank you.
Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
All right, public comment?
Happy birthday, David.
Oh, happy birthday, Dave.
Birthday.
You had to do that. Okay, it's my 35th birthday.
Oh, good. And how many years has that been?
It's a famous holiday.
Yeah, Route 66.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Collin.
If I could just step back from public comment for a minute, because I kind of
Yep.
got ahead of David there. Yeah. But we have a situation, as the board probably is well aware, of where we're going to probably need some professional services in town as it relates to septic systems and follow-ups and inspections and whatnot. One of those, it's a specialized certification. Not everybody can perform that function. It's called a septic system evaluator. It's a special list that the state keeps, special certifications. And because of some legal interactions, we're going to need to retain some services in that area. So I have a gentleman, Peter Russell, that I've spoken with, who is part of the training board for evaluators. He's got a pretty good pedigree, does affidavit reports to the court. He has witnessed.
And we'll get a written document off this.
We get a written document, he performs inspection services, the whole thing. An average inspection is typically like $500, but if there's more things involved, you understand how that all plays out. Just the same, I have found this person, he seems to have a pretty good pedigree, and I'm going to ask him to provide more of his resume for the board. I think it was pretty impressive when I talked to him. So we're going to need to hire somebody in short order here because we have a document in front of us from the courts. So I just wanted to see if
Do we have time next week to vote on that after seeing what you're gonna pull together?
I'm going to contact him today because I thought he would already have sent me.
Okay. Then we'll talk about it next week and make a decision.
Okay, is there an opportunity that we could do something tentatively to set that up to go forward because we are on timeline? Doesn't have to happen. We do
I
some-
have no issue with it because I'm totally familiar with what the legal case is about,
Okay,
but Lenny, do you have any questions without getting into naming of individuals? The court order was pretty clear.
Yeah,
have you seen that court order?
yeah.
We just saw it this morning.
Just saw it this morning.
All right.
Yeah, I have no questions.
Yeah, and after reading the correspondence back and forth with town legal counsel, we need to do this sooner than later.
Unfortunately.
Provide notice and then get the appropriate law enforcement folks backing it up.
This is another, what is the old saying? It's like the army, hurry up and then wait. So it's one of those things where we have a timeline, we have to punch forward. And then this is going to take several months down the road and then it plays out. It's a long day.
What's the gentleman's name again, Mike?
Excuse me?
What's the gentleman's name again?
Pete Russell, he's out of Alton Bay.
Okay.
Like I said, he's on the evaluators list, over 20 years in the business.
That's good.
Covers he's got a huge, just go on his website, he's
Good.
not the average one.
So we can keep this clean because I know it'll come up. Let's make a motion to accept Mr. Russell as the licensed inspector evaluator for this legal project. Any
I'll second that.
Any questions beyond that?
No.
All those in favor? All right.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
And based on legal counsel's comment last night, I want to be part of that when that happens.
Absolutely, I know.
Okay, good. Anything else, Mike, on
No.
that
sir,
area?
thank you very much.
Okay, good. Okay, back to public comment. Does anybody have any public comment? Going once, going twice? So, thank you. Non-public, do we need one today? Money?
I don't think I do.
I don't either. Okay. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, folks.
Have a wonderful day.